to Hello everyone and welcome to FtBCon3. Today is January 23rd, 2015. It's 8 p.m. Central Time, and you are here for the Abortion 101 talk with Nikki Massey, who is an abortion doula and a clinic escort and all-around awesome person, and I am going to turn things over to Nikki.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my face. For everyone's sake and for my sake, the vast majority, all of this presentation is going to be taking place with PowerPoint because it's just easier to get it out there in case you're looking at it later. This does come with a content warning because I do have gory pictures, but don't worry, you'll be warned before and you'll be warned once that slide is over and done with, so hopefully we'll be all good. So without further ado, let me share my screen. Wait, that's not sharing screen. Wait, there we go. And share the entire screen. I'm gonna hide the sucker here. Ta-da! All right, ready to rock. Here we go. Abortion 101. Almost everything you wanted to know about abortion, but we're too polite to ask. Because I don't know about you, but if you know someone who's recently had an abortion, it's probably best to let them tell the story instead of going, what's it like? So hopefully this will enlighten you. First things first, who the hell am I? I look like that. Hi. My name is Nikki M, or Nikki Massey. I am a reproductive justice activist. I am a clinic escort. I am wearing our lovely escort vests to this. I think it was a rally. I am an abortion doula in training, and most importantly, I am not a medical professional by any stretch of the imagination. I'm going to be speaking like a lay person to lay people. So, which probably is going to mean I'm going to be mispronouncing things left and right. So there's your warning. And just before I move on, people are probably wondering, what's a doula? What's a doula to you? Okay, I promised no more awful jokes. An abortion doula, it provides emotional, physical, and informational support to people who choose abortion. In layman's terms, we hold hands, we pet hair, we're a human support, and what can be in the moment a rather impersonal procedure. Your legs are in the stirrups, there are people below your waist looking down and into your vagina. That can be, for some people, rather daunting, so we like to be a human presence near the patient. We try to ease some of their fears, because this is, again, a medical procedure, and that can get some people really wound up. Most importantly, we provide compassion and caring, because, well, for some people, they need it. Again, this can be emotionally fraught. This can be rather scary. So, moving on, what will I be talking about? Well, I will be discussing the procedures for first, second, third, and medication abortions. That would be using the pill. And I'm going to talk about the difficulties in obtaining an abortion in the first place, because nothing is more ridiculous than people who assume flippantly that abortions are in any way, shape, or form easy, or that they're done for funsies. You know, that you have that one person who knows their aunt's hairdresser's second cousin removed has abortions like twice a year. Hopefully will be explaining why that is nonsense. I'm also going to be providing content warnings before problematic slides to make sure that people can, cover your eyes, switch to a new tab, do whatever it is you need to do before I move on to the next slide. So hopefully this can be educational for everyone. Most importantly, what I will not be discussing. There is one thing I have no intention of discussing at all, and that's the morality of abortion. I will not entertain any questions about whether you think it's right or wrong. I will be entertaining anything of that sort because it's not a debate. A lot of us who fight for reproductive justice, the morality debate is a pointless exercise. Either you believe that people have the right to determine when or if they wish to be parents, or you don't. Either you believe in body autonomy for everyone, or you don't. And that, to me, is as simple as that. So, That's all thought experiment. Imagine you're pregnant, and the reasons why you're seeking an abortion can fall into two very simple cases. Either you don't want to be pregnant anymore, or you can no longer continue the pregnancy. You can pretty much put all the reasons they give into the two categories: lack of support, you don't desire children, you don't desire more children, you're uninterested in continuing the pregnancy and adopting, etc., and so on. You're experiencing a miscarriage, there's health risks to you, there's a fetal anomaly, I told you I'd be messing up the medical terms, etc., and so on. Keeping all that in mind, everyone's reason is valid. Yes, I mean everyone. Even that hairdresser's third cousin twice removed has an abortion twice a year, supposedly. Now, you're seeking an abortion, but hold on there. Unfortunately, here in the U.S., there are so many stops you have to go through to make sure that to get through before you can even get your feet in the stirrups. There are waiting periods, which can go anywhere between 18 hours in Indiana to 72 hours in South Dakota. And there's mandatory counseling, which is different from the sort of counseling you would actually get once you get inside. So here goes. Nearly all states require counseling about the procedure and fetal development. Sounds fair. And some add-ons, scientifically accurate information, fetal pain, breast cancer, the breast cancer connection, which is crap, the negative emotional effects of abortion only. And some clinics make it easy, thankfully, by doing the verbal parts of the counseling over the phone before the appointment. I know there's one or two clinics here in Minnesota where they actually will do that, and that's awesome. Mandatory counseling, as it is stated here, is pretty crap. Just saying.
Hey, Nikki?
Yes?
Okay. Somehow that managed to bring back your screen. We had just lost your slides for a sec. I'll turn myself back off.
Then let me restart. Thanks for the heads up. Live, everybody.
Oh, no, you're all good. Just go ahead from where you are. We just lost the slides. So.
Okay. All right. Now we're back. Okay, great. All right. Waiting periods. We talked about that. We talked about that. We talked about that and that and that. And I think we can move on. Here goes. Oh, wait, there's more roadblocks. I told you this wasn't going to be easy. If you are under 18, parental notifications. Sometimes you have to inform one parent, sometimes both. Good luck if your parents are estranged or if they punish you for getting pregnant in the first place. You have to get either their notification, hey, mom, dad, whatever, I'm getting an abortion, or their consent, is that okay if I get one, or sometimes both. Most states have exceptions for medical emergencies, but only 16 have exceptions in cases of abuse, assault, neglect, or incest. Goody! And one of the biggest roadblocks is access and cost. Some states don't have abortion clinics at all, and the ones who do, trap laws cause others to close down. So you have even fewer places to go to get this procedure done. Many clinics have limited appointments due to a limited number of doctors. There are doctors who travel out of state, far out of state, during a week just to do procedures at different clinics. Abortions can cost between $500 and $3,000 depending on trimester. And unfortunately, only a few states allow Medicaid or state-funded insurance to pay in case of financial issues. I am not going to discuss HR 7 that passed a couple of days ago because it still makes me angry. So now you have this revised to-do list before you get in. Find the location of an abortion clinic. How are you going to get there? Where are you going to stay if it happens to be out of town and you have that waiting period to deal with? How are you getting time off work? How are you going to pay for it? A lot of places require money up front. If you're under 18, get a parent or both on board. Get that mandatory counseling over with, and go through the waiting period. And while you're going through all this, there's this big flashing sign you have to keep in mind, and that's Time is of the essence. The longer you wait, the more it's going to cost, and the more complicated this stuff is going to get. So you can see a lot of people who were trying to go for a first trimester abortion end up having to get second trimester abortions because it has taken that long for them to get their shit together. All right, so you finally got into the clinic for your procedure. You check in early, I mean early, and you pay up, you show up your ID, you get ready for a 4 to 6 hour wait. A lot of clinics like to front load their patients, get them in as early as possible because of this wait. And don't forget, no eating before the procedure. No matter which one you're doing, there's going to be anesthesia involved. And anesthesia and food just don't mix. And then you get in, check your vitals, all this happy fun stuff, and you talk to a counselor, an actual counselor. Unlike the bullies that lurk outside of a clinic, they're actually there to listen to you, to make sure you're not being coerced, to make sure that this is what you actually want to do. This is actually your choice. You can even change your mind if you decide that you want to continue your pregnancy after all. Unlike going to, say, a crisis pregnancy center where they can keep you there for hours until you agree that you will not kill your precious baby. All right, now we're going to get to the actual procedures. First trimester, also known as aspiration. First things first, of course, your legs are in the stirrups, and then we apply a speculum into the vaginal canal. I didn't provide a picture of a speculum because they're pretty ubiquitous. Now, the next thing is a tenaculum. This is something a little weird, a little strange, something you might not have heard of. It's to hold the cervix still. It looks a little something like that. Anyone who's ever had an IUD put in, they use this. Now, as we go on, it's part of my doula training, we're also supposed to also warn the patient or tell the patient, you know, this is going to feel like pressure, this is going to be a little pinch, but I personally find that pain, discomfort is very relative. What can feel like a pinch to me could be like having a sword stabbed through your abdomen. So it can vary. I'm not sure when I'm actually practicing if I'll use those terms at all, but who knows. Speaking of pain, pressure, etc., a local anesthetic is applied to the cervix. Applied to the cervix is a nicer way of saying they add shots directly to the cervix, 4, up, down, left, right, and that is to numb the cervix. Now, once it's numb, the cervix is then dilated using the stylishly stainless steel dilators. Not the larger ones here, the smaller ones. The entire point is to have the cervix open enough so that they can add a cannula. We'll save the larger ones for second trimester. A cannula is then inserted into the uterus. That's like a thin, flexible tube, and attached to a vacuum aspiration device, either manual, like this, or electric. Manuals, as you can probably see from that there, you can you could even buy them. This is manual, and then the uterus is emptied. Either way, the manual aspirator is just like a large syringe. During my training, I got to see one of those used on a papaya. It was actually kind of wild. And thanks to the website, thisismyabortion.com, this is a picture of what pretty much comes out when the electric device is used. Note the lack of baby bits. And that's an electric aspiration device. Now, yes, this is blank, and here is your very first content warning. So you get a chance, cover your eyes, look away. Okay, we good? Great. Okay, content warning time again. Let me make this clear. Pro-lifers who acquire their gross-ass pictures do some gross-ass things to get them. They dig into medical waste, they pick out the little parts, they put them on little sheets, little bits of paper, or they compare them with little coins and stuff. It's pretty... Actually, I'm kind of fascinated by their dedication to that they will go through medical waste here. Now, the shame is that in their rush to tug at our heartstrings, they occasionally get the shit wrong. Thankfully, there are a few sites out there who do try to debunk these images. We could use more, just saying medical folk. For example, this is supposed to be the remains of an 8-week-old fetus. Looks pretty dramatic. There's hands, there's eyes, there's that pencil, like you know just how wee it is. Problem is, an 8-week-old fetus actually looks like this. Note the lack of, articulated fingers and toes there. So pretty much, if you're looking at a picture or if someone's displaying a picture, a fast and easy way to let you know, other than the obvious watermark here from the Abortion 67 people, is if they're trying to compare it to a pencil, a coin, a ruler. I would be skeptical of such pictures. Okay, we're moving on. You guys can look again. Next slide. All right, moving on to medication abortions. You'll have to pardon me if I completely screw up these pronunciations. I mess up the names of my own meds, and I've been taking them for years. So, medication abortions are done up to 9 weeks. These meds cause a process like a miscarriage. And at the office, the patient is given one out of two types of meds. There's mifeprex, which blocks progesterone. And there's methotrexate, which stops the implantation process. So you take those, you go home, and the very next day, 24 hours later, the patient takes misoprostol at home to help the uterus expel the contents. It's taken sublingually or in the cheek, again, medical term, against your cheek for 30 minutes. So hopefully the effect of going through a miscarriage won't make you sick. And this is performed, when the fetus is super tiny. Now, once you start this process, there pretty much is no going back. I know a lot of pro-lifers like to say, if you take these first pills, you can totally save your baby if you don't take the second ones, which is crap. So once you take all these, the contents have to go somewhere, since you're not having it aspirated into medical waste. So just take these suckers and prepare for the worst period of your life. You're going to want thick pads, towels, access to a bathroom, whatever it is that gets you through that time of the month, times a lot. And don't worry, I don't have pictures of the results of that, so we can just move right on to second trimester, which is also known as dilation and evacuation. The distinction will be important once we get to third trimester. The process starts the day before with inserting laminaria sticks into the cervix for dilation. Laminaria is a type of seaweed, and when inserted, it absorbs liquid and it swells, which opens up the cervix, and they look like sort of like that. They put in multiple sticks to get things open as gradually as possible. Occasionally, they will also use misoprostol, and they tend to use both the sticks and the drug for later abortions or intact dilation and evacuations, or D&Es for short. So remember these? Well, remember these. The larger ones are used once you actually get there to make sure things are opened up. Other than that, the basic setup is same as the first trimester. We use a speculum. It's usually weighted. Those gigantic dilators to get you open up, and then for an earlier D&E, they use aspiration first, and then a forceps or a curette to ensure the uterus is empty. You may be familiar with forceps, but here's what some curettes actually look like. They're spoon-like. These particular ones are used in the uterus. I once had a protester ask me what's the difference between these and the coat hanger pendant I was wearing. I wish I had this picture to show her and hopefully shut her up. So for later D&Es and intact D&Es, it goes the other way around. First, they use the forceps to remove the fetus, and then the curette and aspiration to make sure everything is empty. So on this other way around, you want to have an intact fetus, or it's too large to be aspirated. So the next step, I want y'all to hang on for me. This is going to get kind of weird for some people. In later abortions, digoxin is used to ensure fetal demise. Digoxin is a drug that is used to stop the fetus's heartbeat. So by ensure fetal demise, we pretty much mean kill the fetus. Remember, we are ending a pregnancy here. So why would someone want an intact abortion? This would allow people, a patient or the family, to say goodbye, to perhaps have a burial, to acknowledge, especially if this was done on a wanted pregnancy, and just for a number of reasons that you would want an intact fetus at the end of this. So content warning time. This is why I always keep these blank so you can look away. Anyway, so now for me, it was difficult to find pictures of a second trimester abortion, even at the debunking site I was using, and it was just no help because they had no examples. So given that in the second trimester, you're going to have more distinct features like arms, legs, a face, these photos may be a bit harder to look at. Case in point, and case in point. You know what's going to be super embarrassing is finding out that I'm the only one even a little bit disturbed and the rest of y'all are fine. But that's okay. That's okay. All right, so moving on. We're going to be talking about induction abortions. I know. Wait a minute, I didn't mention this in my little breakdown, but hold on. Somewhere between the second and third trimester, we have the option to induce labor to remove the fetus. This is usually after 24 weeks. This or IDX become your choices. IDX, I'll explain what that is later, which means a lot of clinics won't or can't do them. Usually means they're usually done in a hospital, so you can expect an overnight stay. If you're lucky, you can go to there's a special ward for this procedure. If you're not, you're pretty much stuck in the maternity ward surrounded by people who are having wanted births. So they start off pretty much the same way. Cervix is open with dilators, the bigger ones. They add suppositories or tablets into the vagina every few hours to induce labor. Wow, labor. And there's, once again, a shot of digoxin or some other quick-acting drug to ensure fetal demise. And then you go through labor. Pretty much. It's shorter than normal. It's shorter than full-term labor, but it's still labor. And at the end, you still have this intact fetus for, your goodbyes or what have you. I will spare you the pictures of what that looks like for this because I need to pause the proceedings for a moment before we move on to third trimester. Or by pause, I mean I want to pontificate for a minute. Before we go any further, you need to know why this procedure is performed because, yeah, the process and the pictures are not going to be very pretty. This is not an easy decision to make at this point. The pregnancy is usually very much wanted. No one's waking up at month 8, day 1, and is like, I don't want to be pregnant anymore. Let me find a clinic. Their health of the patient is at risk. The patient is sick and needs chemo, or there's clots, or there's super high dangerous blood pressure. There are a lot of things that can go wrong, and a lot of things that can go wrong at this point. Or there's a fetal anomaly. There is water on the brain. There is no brain. There is no heart. They won't live more than a few moments outside of the womb, and this is seen as the kindest thing to do. Also, third trimester abortions are rare, 1%. So I know that back when partial birth abortion bill was being passed, pro-lifers tend to make it sound like people were, pulling out near full-term babies left and right and bashing their brains on something or whatever. But it is extraordinarily rare. These patients who come for this procedure are usually in pain or mourning, and the doctors and the staff who do perform this procedure, all 4. We had 5, but someone decided that Dr. George Tiller should do this life-saving work and shot him to death. But these doctors who risk life and livelihood to continue to provide this service, they're heroes as far as I'm concerned. Okay, enough pontificating for me. Let's get to the procedure, shall we? Third trimester abortion, also known as intake, dilation, and extraction, different from the evacuations, also known as IDX for short. They're performed usually when the head is too large to pass through the cervix safely. They're also called partial birth abortions by pro-lifers because when you have no good argument, you tug at people's heartstrings. The setup is exactly the same as first and second. Dilate the cervix. This can take days because we are talking about a third trimester pregnancy and the fetus is larger. So with ultrasound assistance, the fetus is turned to breech position, that's feet first, and pulled out of the cervix by one or both legs. The head is left inside of the uterus, and an incision is made to the base of the skull. That incision is then widened, and then a suction is applied to remove the brain and collapse the skull. And at that point, Jesus, I just skipped right on past that one. Let's go back, thank you. The entire fetus is fully extracted from the birth canal. The placenta is removed and the uterus is aspirated to once again make sure that everything is out of there. And now we can move on. Now you get the content warning because these pictures are harder to find, especially since the Kermit Gosnell case flooded the image search with pictures of his botched, awful, terrible messes. But here you have it. These are the ones that I could find that were confirmed as probably from an IDX. All three of these photos are taken from the same procedure. Probably see it's the same face. And again, like I told you, not pretty. And we move on. Another thing that these procedures have in common is the need for aftercare. This is important, especially when anesthesia has been used to make sure the person is okay. Sometimes there's vomiting, sometimes there's crying. This could take like 20 minutes. It could be a lot longer depending on what you had done. The more that gets done, the longer it's going to take to get you standing again. Afterwards, you can expect cramping as the uterus and the cervix return back to their pre-pregnancy sizes. You can expect bleeding, which especially the next two menstrual cycles you're going to have are going to be probably pretty heavy. Aspiration abortions, the patients can usually return to work the very next day. Other procedures will take longer, not just the physical the physical reasons for aftercare. There's also the emotional ones. Sometimes there's tears. Sometimes there's relief. Sometimes there's this feeling of loss. And again, like I said way earlier, all of these are valid responses. They all should be honored as far as I'm concerned. And don't forget the follow-up exam. Anywhere between 1 or 3 weeks after the procedure, you should go back to make sure that you're healing up just fine, to make sure that you're not, because leaving bits of anything in the uterus after pregnancy is bad, and we want to make sure that you're doing all right. So you're probably wondering, hey Nikki, why did you just spend this past couple of minutes grossing me out? What can I do with this information? Well, first of all, I want you to tell your friends. Share this information. Correct your enemies, because we're skeptics. We like being right. And understand these procedures for yourself. A lot of people who consider themselves pro-choice don't know. And when you do a search for abortion this, abortion that, pro-lifers have all this information that is flooded, especially if you do an image search. God, do not do an image search unless you have a strong stomach, flooded with all these reasons why abortion is bad and it's terrible. But no one, it's just good to understand how these things work for yourself. You have to understand these roadblocks because, once again, this is not an easy procedure. No one's having this for fun. No one's very few people are having it as quote-unquote birth control, and usually it's for a damn good reason. You also need to know this, maybe you want to help out. If this appeals to you, you can donate to an abortion fund. Fundabortion.org is a good starting place to find a local fund. These abortion fund sites help you. They help people who are seeking an abortion but can't afford to pay for it, and that That is important. You can also volunteer at a clinic. I just said clinic escort because that's my gig. It's also important to get patients into the clinic without being harassed, without being, well, pretty much harassed. So call your local clinic to see if they have a program or if they want volunteers, and also look beyond Planned Parenthood. A lot of local clinics could probably use the help. Also, we're looking for you to be more outspoken about your reproductive choice, about your support for reproductive choice. That's probably the most important thing, is just speaking out when someone has wrong information, when, things like the royal anniversary pops up, when a crappy bill pops up in legislature. Just let people know that you are someone who supports reproductive choice. Also, challenge your own preconceptions. That's also, of course, super important before you do the whole judgy abortions for funsies thing. Now, this is my apology for showing everyone the gory pictures. Everyone look at the kitty. It's a fluffy kitty. Kitty to laundry bag. Basket. And I also want to acknowledge my sources. The Spiral Collective are my trainers. Wikimedia Commons for most of the medical pics. Guttmacher Institute for most of my sources. Well, most of my number sources. This skippy.org.uk was where I got the debunked pictures, and for thisismyabortion.com for that one aspiration picture, and good on this person for speaking out the way she did. So I want, with all that's done, and look at Kitty. Kitty's not bloody. Thank you very much for your time, and I will move on. I'll actually move the camera back to my face so I can answer questions. And a slideshow. Yes, I know.
Well, we don't have any questions currently in the chat room, but I wanted to follow up on something that you were talking about. You're talking about ensuring fetal demise.
Yes.
And so this is the point where people are going to pop up and say, killing babies, I'm assuming that at this point, those are not fetuses, for the most part, that are going to survive the abortion.
In later procedures, yes, but I'm talking. Well, if you're talking like an early second trimester, the aspiration is going to take care of things. But at some point, you're having the abortion because it is at that point your choice, and it would be really inconvenient and sad and bad for the fetus to come out alive, especially if it's not at viability. The poor thing won't live very long, so it's just kinder to stop the heartbeat before you extract.
All right. So, what made you decide to become an abortion doula? What was the impetus?
For me, it felt like the next step from being an escort. Escorts get people into the door. I wanted to go beyond the door when it came to supporting those who were seeking abortions. So when I heard about this thing happening here in town, I'm like, I want all over this. I want to do training. I would be doing training this weekend, except I'm here.
And we appreciate that. We really do.
The local Planned Parenthood is actually giving the collective a try, having them show up in shifts and do their thing. So my fingers are crossed the next time they open that up that I'll be able to get in.
Excellent. We are seeing lots of comments in the chat room about Kitty. So just in case you were concerned that nobody was paying attention, they are. But I think you just explained everything really well. So I'm going to do one more check here. And we do have a question.
Good.
What is the cute kitty's name?
The cute kitty's name is Weasel. He is, in fact, my cat. He's a munchkin, so think like kitty little people, full-size body, really short legs, but he can still jump like any average-sized cat. I'm surprised he's not here demanding that it's bedtime.
That will be soon.
That will be very soon.
Yes. And Monette wanted to know how one becomes a doula.
It is still such a rare thing. There's There's a training program like in New York. There's probably and some in California. So it really depends on where you are right now, because abortion doulas are such a new kind of a rare thing right now. A lot of people who are birth doulas who are reaching out first. I'm not trained as a birth anything, so I've had to come from the other side. So finding a program or finding people who are willing to train. We had to fly people from New York for our training, and
Wow.
fly them and their supplies, like the manual thing on a papaya. That was just that was interesting.
Okay. Okay. Michael would like to know whether you could address those fetal pain claims, the ones that feature prominently in the 20-week legislative ban attempts.
Well, I'm gonna preface this by saying again, I am not a medical professional. Doctors know more about this, but from what I've been reading, well, first of all, 20-week bans are just a terrible idea in the first place. 20 weeks is what? Your first trimester, you're like what, the middle of the second one, if I'm doing my math correctly. Sorry. It's another way to try to challenge Roe, or try to make it impossible for people to seek abortions. And it's against what folks whose job it is to study the fetus know about fetal pain. So again, pro-lifers, when they don't have facts on their side, they pluck on your heartstrings. And that 20-week abortion ban is just another attempt to pluck at your heartstrings to make you feel bad about this fetus who, at 20 weeks, isn't feeling anything.
And we're already at that point getting into the point where they would use uh, the toxin to stop
The
the
jet
fetus's
toxin.
heart, aren't we?
Yeah, at that point, I don't think it's even needed at that point. But like again, I'm
Okay.
again not a medical professional, but at that point, I don't think that would even be needed, depending on how we're going along. I need to find a picture of what a 20-week-old fetus looks like, which I will point out really helped with my verifying some of those pictures, because you go to one of those as your baby is growing sites for people
Yes.
who actually want to who are pregnant and are very happy to be pregnant, and they have no reason to lie to you about what your fetus looks like at certain months. So that really helps when I'm comparing pictures.
Yeah, I've used those sites before as well. Gretchen would like to know how you feel about people like Emily Letts who document their abortion. Do you think it's a good thing or not a good thing?
I think it's a wonderful thing. I actually decided to do this talk with that in mind. A lot of people, I mean, people have been telling their stories. There's this site called I'mNotSorry.net that has existed since 2004, where people can anonymously or not type out their stories, and there's sections pre-row and post-row that people are just, I mean, people sit there and it's a great challenge to the pro-life narrative that everyone who has an abortion is a pitiful wretch, and they can't have any more kids, and they're full of regret, and that's all that you hear. So I think it's awesome that people like Emily Letts or Sarah Molia over at Skeptic, who have actually who are willing to tell their stories, willing to show, willing to tell, willing to let people know, because abortion, for such a contentious thing, isn't really well understood as a procedure.
All right. And you are doing this particular talk as part of the Secular Woman track for FtBCon. You want to give us a little bit of background on what Secular Woman is doing on this issue?
Well, I would direct everyone to aborttheocracy.com, which is the branch that covers most things reproductive justicey. People have told their stories about what it's like to not just to get an abortion, but to access reproductive care. I think I have a story or two there myself under the Shameless program. And actually, for Roe's anniversary, Secular Woman released a bunch of quotes from people, members, etc., who support Roe, and they came with pictures. I thought that was just a great way to further humanize the issue. So, if you're interested, check out aborttheocracy.com.
All right. And I actually didn't participate in that because I've been really busy lately, but I will just put in my pitch that the availability of abortion is one of those things that over the course of my life has allowed me to access the other kinds of healthcare that I need, because there have been medications that I've needed to take that are incompatible with fetal development. So just the fact that I wasn't trying to become pregnant, but should it happen, I didn't have to carry a fetus to term that wasn't going to live was a very comforting thing.
That is something that people, I believe, really need to think about, are, again, challenging that abortion for funsies thing. And I say that a lot because I wrote a blog post about it, and it just stuck. It's just that phrase sticks with me, because you do hear, I mean, look at the comment section of any discussion about abortion. You'll have at least half a dozen people like who, if you scratch them hard enough, pretty much want to say, if you don't want a baby, don't have sex. But they cover it with all kinds of crap, like, you want to keep your super free lifestyle, and you just drop off a baby whenever to get murdered, and they don't understand things like meds that you're taking that are not compatible with carrying a child. They don't understand things like fetal anomalies. They don't understand things like, no, really, I can't have a kid right now. Or
Yeah,
they just don't. I don't know if it means they don't understand. They just don't care. It really depends on who you're talking to.
yeah. All right. Well, I think that is the end of our questions.
Okay.
And I would just like to thank you once again for coming on and sharing all of this awesome knowledge and a couple of, well, photos of medical procedures that very much look like photos of medical procedures. So,
I wanted to, yeah, I would love to go into detail about the week I've had trying to dive into these pictures. But I will spare everyone and their lunch.
all right. Well, thank you once again, Nikki.
No problem. Thank you, everyone.